us up.
Test us.
Thank you. You can look us up.
And we are on live.
I'm Peter McCarthy, the board chair. When we do go to public comments, as I was saying, we have a policy like most public bodies that there's a limit on time for public comment. Anyone who wants to speak is given up to 5 minutes to speak. We also have a citizens group who I expect to show up tonight called SPARK, Syracuse Police Accountability and Reform Coalition, and we've agreed to give them 5 to 10 minutes on our agenda also. So, first board action item, approval of February meeting minutes. Board have the meeting minutes in your emails, because I have a motion to approve those minutes, please.
Make a motion to approve it.
And did we get a second?
I'll second.
Ruth, second. Any comments or questions on the February meeting minutes? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, all unanimously in favor. Renette Relaford's going to bring up a payment to Bousquet Holstein for legal services.
So in your folders, you see that there is a bill from Bousquet Holstein for services that were rendered in December through January 31st, 2019. So December 2018 through January 2019, it totals $1,100 and something dollars, I believe. I think $1,147. It was with regard to several things that we discussed previously, and I just need a motion to pay the bill.
I'll make a motion.
And
Second.
okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Renette, did the rates go up?
Nope, that's typical rates.
Just because an hour in December was $275 and an hour in January was $300. That's the first page.
Rates went up since last year?
$25. I can ask about that.
See if it's either a mistake or if it's changed.
Okay, we'll do.
Thank you.
Do you want to pay it still? If it's, okay.
Okay, so the motion to pay it stands, and we will get back to you with an answer on why the difference in this year's rates. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Chairman's report. Couple of meetings of the Common Council Public Safety Committee, which is responsible for the Citizen Review Board. On March 6th, a couple days ago, there was a meeting at which the body-worn camera policy was presented to the Common Council. Police department policies, as I understand it, are developed by the police department in conjunction with the city law department, sometimes with public input. We had given some input to the body-worn camera policy. So the policy was presented, and Renette and I both spoke and raised some of our concerns with what the policy now states. You want to summarize what those were, or you want to?
Sure. So based upon the current policy that was provided to the public and us in October of last year, October 2018, we basically had some concerns related to recording. It talked about when the recording should occur, and it did not list that the body-worn camera should be turned off if a police officer attends a CRB hearing. So we made mention that that needs to be added. We also made mention of that the CRB is not mentioned at all in the body-worn camera policy. So when it talks about viewing the body-worn camera footage, it does not list that they will provide it to the CRB. There's a section that relates to the Office of Professional Standard being given access, and there is a section that talks about that they can make copies. And I wanted to know, were we to assume that that meant the copies portion related to the CRB, because typically the Office of Professional Standards makes copies of documents and gives it to us. So they make a copy of a booking video and give it to us. They make a copy of the photographs that are taken at the scene from the forensic technician. They make a copy of that. So we wanted to get further clarification on, did the copy part mean us or not? We also focused on
Can I make
our,
a comment about that? The way the way the policy reads sounds like those tapes never leave the police department unless there's an official request for an investigation. Doesn't mention the CRB. In our ordinance, it says we're entitled to all materials used in a police investigation. So we're waiting for clarification on what that policy will allow us to be entitled to in terms of using those tapes if we need them.
we also pointed out national best practice with regard to clean reporting, and that's when the officer writes their statement of the events and then reviews the body-worn camera footage and then makes a supplemental report or an addendum to the report, and that was not added as well. And again, that's a national best practice by PERF, which the new current police chief is well aware of the PERF requirement. So we made mention of those points as well. Along with, it talks about that anybody who is to view the body-worn camera footage has to go through departmental training with regard to evidence.com. And so we asked whether or not when the CRB administrator would receive training with regard to evidence.com or be given access to evidence.com. So that was another one of our concerns. A lot of concerns were raised by newly appointed counselor Bryn Lovejoy Grinnell, related to part of the policy states that it's preferred that you will turn the camera on when possible. And basically we wanted to say that you should automatically turn it on. You should turn it on as soon as you get dispatched to the call, things of that nature. So looking into changing that, and that was also one of our concerns. So I would encourage you, it was recorded as well on YouTube live stream. So I would encourage you to watch the video so that you can see more detail, so we don't have to spend all our time here, but I would encourage you to take the time to do that.
And Deputy Chief Cecil, who did most of the talking for the police department, the chief was there also. The Deputy Chief Cecil said this policy would be evaluated. They'll be looking at the parts of it. So we left them with some questions, and we were pleased that the Common Council also had several important questions that they want to get more answers to. There's another Public Safety Committee coming up March 20th, having to do with overtime in the police department. I won't be there. I'm going to be out of town. But I'd ask if a couple of us could go. That's an important issue in the police department. We have asked the...
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
It's on March the 20th.
March 20th. Probably the same time, 12:45
It's at
p.m.
12:45, yes.
We've asked the Public Safety Committee for a meeting for the CRB to attend. Talk to them about some of the concerns that we've had. We haven't yet gotten an answer about when that might be scheduled. And I'll come back to that in a couple minutes. March 14th, a week from today at 8 a.m., Renette and I will be doing a presentation to a joint meeting of Thursday Morning Roundtable and Focus Greater Syracuse. That's at the SU Warehouse over by Armory Square. It's at 8 a.m. You can look up Thursday Morning Roundtable online, and you should find that if you'd like to attend. It's open to the public.
Where's it at again?
What do they call it? The SU Warehouse. It's
Nancy Cantor.
Nancy Cantor building.
Fayette and West.
Do you know where the Red House used to be?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's right across the street,
okay.
on
Right.
the other side
At
of
Fayette and West.
Mhm.
I'd like to introduce our new CRB member, Priscilla Santana, who's been appointed from the second district, and this is her first meeting. Welcome. We're
Thank
happy
you.
to have you
Thank
here.
you. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, just so everybody, some people were...
Well, raised and born in Dominican Republic. I work at Upstate as a team leader for the Interpreting Services Department. and just joined this to help.
Sure. The gentleman is asking for an introduction to hi everyone.
Okay, can we just say our names?
Start with Dan.
Raynette Relafort.
Peter McCarthy.
May Carter.
Mary Nelson.
Corey Nelson from the 3rd District.
Thank you. I could see I could have seen the names actually. I just wanted to know about the position.
Yeah.
It was just for academic purpose and from the
I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're asking, sir.
I was just like knowing the position, like which position in the county you're coming from, the Citizen Review Board. I'm from the university, so it was my academic session. So I just wanted to know the composition of it. That's it.
You'll get a chance to come and ask
Yeah,
questions.
when we, public comment, as I said, about 6:30, you'll be able to say what you want and ask questions if you want.
That's
Thank you,
okay.
sir.
That's all right.
Okay, did we all introduce ourselves?
Ruth, go ahead.
Ruth Coots.
Priscilla Santana.
And I'm Clifford Ryan.
Thank you. We have some other good news. We had a vacancy in our office. We have hired a new legal secretary, one. Her name is Mattia Donzo, and she will be starting 20th, 23rd, something like that.
The 20th.
March 20th, so that's good news. Renette's going to have a chance to catch up. We also have an SU intern. Is the SU intern in the room?
Yeah.
Want me to say a little something about myself?
Yeah, please. You can go right to the mic. Thank you.
My name's Jill Janovic. I am a junior at Syracuse University. I am studying public policy with a minor in psychology and political science. I'm originally from New Jersey, so that's about it.
Thank you. Welcome.
Of course, thank you.
Okay, couple comments. I mentioned last time that Renette and I have been having some conversations with the mayor's office, the corporation council, and the chief about initiated with some of our concerns about public comments that have been made. We had a meeting with that group last week, and we did get some agreements. Chief has made a commitment to be more transparent about the decisions that he makes based on our recommendations, particularly when he chooses not to discipline an officer, what his reasons would be. The Corporation Council has asked, and we agreed with her, that we need a more specific confidentiality agreement for CRB members so that it's clear what our legal obligations are in terms of confidentiality. We had no problem with that.
Can Renette talk about some of the concerns a little bit for the board?
In the board's past, the CRB had the board members sign a separate confidentiality agreement that was different than the code of ethics that Kristen discussed the last time. We've kind of mulled this question over a few times, and based upon a concern, once the transparency begins between the board and the police department, there is still the concern related to personnel related matters being privy to the board. So in terms of when we are advised that an officer is disciplined, or if we inquire about the progressive discipline step that a particular officer is on and things of that nature, that we keep it as confidential as possible. So it's just another measure of showing Corporation Council and the police department that we're all in, and we totally understand, their hesitation with regard to confidentiality, and it's our way of reiterating that we're all on board.
A couple other very important things that we have some agreement on is that the chief has agreed to reestablish the police liaison committee, which since I've been chair, that committee hasn't existed. He's required by statute to set up a committee representing the police department, which some of us can meet with. And what we'd like to do is be able to meet with that committee and raise with them concerns that we have about, in particular, I'll mention two big issues. One is the recommendations that the CRB has made over the years about policy, procedures, training, and supervision in the police department, which is a major part of our job. It's at least as important as determinations we make about individual cases, that we make recommendations to the department. We don't know what the department might or might have done about any of our recommendations over the last several years. So we need to talk to the police liaison committee and ask them that question. On a side note, the chief has agreed, probably our most important recommendation is revision and updating to the use of force policy. So they are working on that at this point. So, you know, we want to be able to meet with the police liaison committee to get updates on those. And the last big issue, which we'd also like to check in with the police liaison committee, is old cases that we're not getting information from the department. Every case that comes to us should go to the Office of Professional Standards in the police department, and they do. And every case that comes to Office of Professional Standards should come to us, and they don't. The department's in violation of the law by not reporting those cases to us. So we've asked for that, and the chief and the corporation counsel all agreed that they will look at those old cases. We know there are about 75 old cases from 2017-18 that we haven't gotten any information. There might be more, because in any cases that did not come to CRB in the first place, we wouldn't know about at all. So we're in process of working on that backlog, and we have assurances that we'll get them. So we're going to continue to ask those questions, and I'd like to be able to ask them of the police liaison committee. We've also asked for periodic meetings with the chief so we can follow up on those issues as well.
How often are we asking them for it? Like how often are we asking them?
How soon are we asking, did you say? Or
Like how often? Like are we calling them like?
The law says they get a case at Office of Professional Standards, we get it within 24 hours, not 2 years. So we've been pretty clear that we would like to see a real attempt to keep to what the statute says. I don't know how often.
So in terms of your question about how often am I following up with the Office of Professional Standards about their cases? So typically, you know, at least once a month I'm asking what's going on with the backlog. That is also one of the things that we are going to have our legal secretary do as well, is to follow up with them every week to ensure and keep track of when she makes contact with them and their answer as to whether or not they have received the case or not. Because until they send them over to us, we really don't know what is received over there.
So at least once a week?
So at least once a week, we are going to start calling over there and seeing if they have received any cases in their office that week. And we are complying with the law and turning ours around in 24 hours. I used to bring them over by physical paper copy, and instead I've decided to start emailing them, so I have a record of it. So that's how we send them over now, is by email, so that then I can email it again just in case. But that's the method that we're using right now. So as soon as I get it, I'm scanning it into the system and I'm sending it over by email. Usually they get it the same day that I get it, but if not, it's the next day.
So we'll keep you informed. We don't have another meeting with that group scheduled yet, but there will be one scheduled before long. Administrator's report. Renette?
Good evening, everyone. In terms of the activity report, we received 3 new cases in the month of February, making a total cases for January and February to be 14. We received a good amount of cases in January, totaling 11. We will be reviewing 2 cases in executive session this evening. Monthly financial report, you can see in the lovely green sheets, you can see the most up-to-date budget. I complied with your request to make the date on the bottom showing when it was produced to you, so that you know when I ran this report. As you can see, for the most part, the budget has remained the same since last month. And I also did, a breakdown of what expenses were paid if you flip through the next one based upon the budget, the account areas. Anybody have any specific questions? And just to let you know that the Bousquet Holstein bill that we just talked about, that is going to be out of the, it's the professional services department, which is the rent, professional service and contract services. It's gonna go out of that amount that we have sitting there. Okay. In terms of the, as Peter stated, we have about 48 outstanding cases from 2018 that we are waiting for reports from the Office of Professional Standards on. We have about 23 outstanding cases from the 2017 year that we are focused on. With regard to the 2017 cases, we are continuing to follow up with the Office of Professional Standards to see what the status is. With regard to that, we are focusing on the 2018 cases as they are within the 18 months for which an officer can be disciplined, if any. So we are strongly encouraging them to clear up those 48 cases as expeditiously as possible. In terms of the annual report, the 2018 annual report will be up on the website before the end of this month. I think the deadline's by the end of March, so it will be up there. There will be just a full 2018 report. I know that I did not publish a 2018 third quarter and fourth quarter report, so it will be, those statistics will be all in the 2018 report, but just so you know, that's the reason why it's not on the website, is because there's been a lot going on in the office trying to make sure our numbers are appropriate and things of that nature, and that we have the accurate numbers.
And we've been shorthanded in the office, so our intention is to get those full reports.
And then the deadline also for the first quarter of 2019 is at the end of this month as well, so I intend to publish the 2018 annual report and the first quarter of 2019 report all in the same month. By the end of this month. So just look for it to be updated. As discussed previously, we send them to a person in the mayor's office for them to upload the reports to the CRB website. After that, we have to wait for them to appear on the website. I have no control over when it gets there. I just know that I'll submit it on the date, and we just have to wait. But you can contact our office, and I'll be happy to email you a copy of the report if you need it quicker than it gets on the website, but just so you know. And that's all. Oh, yeah, that's all I have to say.
You were quick.
Today I'm rocking and rolling.
Thank you. Okay. Committee reports, community outreach and public education. Renette has something?
I'll start off with this. In your folders as well, there is a quote from GNL Printing or GL Printing. If anybody knows, or if you don't know, that is through the Good Life Foundation, and it is centered around the youth. So this is a way that local youth can get employed in the t-shirt printing business and make some money through this. So in your folders, you will see that there is a quote for, the first quote for $919.88 is for screen printed shirts, and it would be polo shirts that we would wear during outreach, but basically when we're sitting at a table, we would wear those. When we're doing our block by block, we would wear our t-shirts, and that's the price for 40 polo shirts and 40 screen shirts, t-shirts, so that a total of 80 shirts for the amount of $919. The next one that you will see is with regard to embroidery. If we wanted to do embroidery, which is the stitching of the shirts, that is $1,039 for the same amount. What I was thinking was the shirt would look similar to this. It'll have our usual question, concerned about police conduct on the front, and then on the back, it would state building trust between police and community through accountability. Our information on the back, our telephone number in bold, and this would be the t-shirt. And then this would be the polo shirt, and the polo shirt would just have our logo on the side, just so that we look professional when we go and we sit at tables. We can discuss the color. I personally think that the gray looks good, because it would be fade resistant, hopefully. And so then if, instead of us having a green shirt and somebody else having a lighter shade of green or something, it would be, so that would be my preference. But again, so we can, this is the first quote that we've received. Does anybody have any questions with regard to it? Anybody have any suggestions of any place they'd rather us look into? I'm not sure what the requirements are with regard to the city, if I have to have 3 companies give me a quote. I know they preferred that when we were looking for the private investigator, but this is the quote that we've received so far. Anybody think it's too high, too low? Anybody have
Can
any?
you tell me the individual cost of each shirt?
Somewhere around
It's on,
$11.
yeah.
$11 to $12 for the printed ones, and
Will we be paying for it? Paying for our
No,
shirt?
we have money in the budget to pay for this.
11 and
So-
15 for embroidered.
I mean, individually, will we be paying for the shirts?
No.
Okay, we get our first free?
You would get your first free. Now, if you lose one, we might have to think about that. But as far as right now,
Shirts I paid $400 and some dollars.
so
Share with her.
You know, I'm seeing this price here, but my annual event, I have 80 T-shirts and 4 polos made through Holy Shirt, and I paid $489.
400.
$489 for
Okay.
80 shirts
Okay.
for my volunteers.
From Holy Shirt.
Holy Shirts.
Okay. All right. I'll look into getting a quote from them.
Is there, what's the logic in choosing the number 40? Just
It
curious.
just was kind of a round number. Usually we only have 11 members. We have so we have 11 members on the board, plus the administrator and the assistant. So, roughly we're having 13 shirts, at a time, and we were hoping that, you could keep that for your whole term, per se. So it was just pretty much just to make sure.
So we could talk about what the
So
actual
we could talk
number
about
would
the
be.
actual number. That just was
Okay.
kind of given it, and just in case we had to.
So you're gonna get at least one more quote, and we're gonna check with the city about purchasing and whether we need 3 quotes.
Yes. Thank
Okay,
you, Mary.
Yep.
Okay, Cliff, community outreach
Yeah,
and
so,
public edu-
as I was looking at it, I could see we had a misprint here about where it's gonna be. We're gonna be at the Galleries Library downtown, the 22nd, from 3 to 5. Okay, we encourage you to come down, get information, talk, express your concerns, and then the next area that we're gonna go to is gonna be the Beecham Library on Salina Street. I'm in the process of getting confirmation for that one as well. But the next outreach for the review board is gonna be at the Galleries downtown from 3 to 5. All right, any board members who might wanna come and help out, you're more than welcome. We'll be there from 3 to 5, okay?
Okay, and we worked on a tentative list of upcoming trainings so that we will fulfill the requirement to have one training in each district over the course of the year. So we'll continue to work on that, and Cliff will keep us updated on that. Board developments and training. We had what I think I know everyone, because we got some feedback from everyone that was there, felt was a very successful day. A week ago last Saturday. There were a couple board members who were not able to make it. Since this is a requirement of our ordinance, we've rescheduled a smaller training, tentatively scheduled for March 30th. I expect to confirm that within the next couple days, but it's looking pretty definite it'll be March 30th at 10 a.m. And don't have a location yet, but with a small group that shouldn't be much of a problem. So like I said, I expect to have enough information to confirm at least a time and date within the next few days. Yes.
Is that the makeup group for the people that missed, or?
For the people that missed, yeah, small group, just the people that were unable to come last Saturday. And we'll continue our conversation with the Interfaith Works people about scheduling another date, probably in June for the board as well. Government relations, do we have anything to report? Probably not.
Well, no, we discussed it.
Yeah, we
and,
talked about our meetings with City Hall and so
Yeah,
forth, and the Police Liaison Committee.
Yep.
Okay, under new business, Teresa Rocha Beardall texted me a while ago. She's unable to be here tonight to give her update on the CRB study. Is anyone here from Spark? I don't see anyone. They asked for some time on the agenda, and I don't see anyone I recognize to do that. So
Move right along.
I think that's all the business for tonight. So anyone who would like to speak could come up to the mic, and you have up to 5 minutes for public comments or questions.
So if you have the time left.
Yep. You're gonna have 5 minutes, okay? You can come up and speak and just express anything you wanna come up and say.
You want us?
Come up to the mic, please.
So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity for coming to the mic and speak. And I just had the privilege to actually sit and attend this very nice meeting of the CRB and learning about. So I'm from the university at the Maxwell School, and I was just here to observe how the CRB actually takes place. So and in that context, actually, I asked for the introduction, like what actually forms the CRB. But I've while I was sitting here, I Googled it and I found everybody of you in the on the internet already. So thank you very much. And I'm just here for observation, like the people are making comments, and I'm just taking your responses on those, and just trying to learn like how do you respond. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. And I'm not sure, did you say you will be attending meetings regularly, or?
I'll be here for like maybe a couple of them more.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know how does the public review system on the police actually works. I myself work as the public manager back home in my country, and we also have the similar kind of review boards. And we also have the similar kind of complaints which we were hearing from the police, like not responding in time, which have been mentioned, like 78 cases in the past 2 years, and not an efficient system of actually they responding to the public representatives. So I just wanted to learn like how does it go in the Syracuse County.
Thank you. You might consider next Thursday morning, if you're free, at 8 o'clock to come to the presentation I mentioned at Thursday morning roundtable, which is.
I will sure, yeah. That will be. Thank you so much for. Yeah, I just skipped that actually. Yeah, I'll surely. Am I allowed in that one? Because you probably. Okay, I'll surely like to come. Yeah, it's an immense learning for me for that. So
Yeah.
I'll surely like to come over that.
And it
yeah.
will also be broadcast live as
Right.
well, so even if you miss it, it will also be shown again. I believe it's gonna be that on a Saturday, it will be re-aired, as they would say, so that you can see it as well, but if not,
I think you can probably get a link to it also after that.
Yeah, I would rather like to be personally present. Maybe if it's an interactive session, so I'll have a chance to actually ask question maybe or get clarification
absolutely.
also.
Did
Yeah.
you want me to answer a few of your, so, the public submits a complaint to our office. As we stated, it then gets sent over to the police department, at which time then I review the complaint, and I contact any witnesses that are listed on the complaint. If a person states they have pictures, I acquire the pictures that may be relevant. I go out to the scene to review anything that I can see on the scene. If they say that the store has a video camera, I will approach the store and see if the store can give me a copy of the video camera. That's one of the uses of our subpoena power, as well as if a particular establishment requires that we give them a subpoena in order to review that footage. I would come back to the board, ask the board to issue a subpoena on that particular case so that I can subpoena the footage from the store. Then after that occurs, I wait for the Office of Professional Standards report or their internal affairs report, and in that report it's going to give me the officers' police reports that were taken after the incident. If there is an allegation of excessive force, I'm going to receive a copy of the booking video that shows how the person entered into the Justice Center so that I can see their appearance. I'm also going to get copies of the pictures from the evidence technician that takes pictures on the scene. But as you know, sometimes injuries don't show up as much right after the event, so I also like to have the person give me pictures as the stages kind of happen of healing, when the bruises usually show up later. So I'll ask for pictures with regard to that. I will then, if the Office of Professional Standards has not asked a particular question with regard to something that I'm looking for, typically they will ask a question about the complaint. Say if it wasn't in the officer's report, they'll say, well, in the CRB complaint it specifically alleged this. Can you, what's your recollection with regard to this or whatever? And I usually get that response as well. If I find that there is still more questions that I would like to ask of the officer, I typically would email them and ask those questions, ask the Office of Professional Standards to ask the officer those questions. We are still working out the logistics. I'm not sure how that process is going to work now with the new chief. If I may be directing those questions to the chief to then ask the officer, I'm not really sure. So then after that occurs, then I write a case summary. The case summary then provides the board with the information as to the witnesses that I interviewed, the information that I obtained from them, any other additional documents that I've received as attached to the case summary. In that case summary, I'm going to point out the contradictions. I'm going to point out what was kind of corroborated. I'm going to give a recommendation as to whether or not the case should go to a hearing or if it should not. And then the board is still going to make a decision in executive session on whether or not they agree or disagree with my recommendation. If the board agrees with my recommendation for a hearing, then later on a hearing is scheduled between the complainant. We send a letter to the police officers and invite the police officers to attend, and we hold a hearing with the 3-member hearing panel, which is a member that's appointed by the mayor's office, a member that's appointed by a district counselor, and a member that's appointed by an at-large counselor. And then we all sit around the table and we hear and they get a chance to hear the same testimony, hopefully, that I received at the time that I did my interview with them. And then at that point in time, the board then decides, after they hear all the information and ask the complainant a question, they then at that point in time will deliberate per se, and we escort the complainant out of the room and send them home for the day. And we will then, they will deliberate and decide whether or not they are going to sustain the person's allegation with regard to the police conduct.
That's the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It really
Thank you.
helps.
Most of that is described in our ordinance, which is available on the website. If you can find that there. Anybody else have questions or want to make a statement? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Charles Jackson. I am the coordinator for the Syracuse Youth Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. And I just wanted to come and say, Mr. Ryan was a little duplicitous because he forgot to say he was at my luncheon on Tuesday, and so that was definitely some outreach. That was the whole point
right.
of the luncheon.
That's it, Renette was there as well.
Thank you, Ms. Carter, for having us. We were at one group, and so thank you very much. I hope that the luncheon was helpful for making those connections in the community. Your
Enough information from the review board as well.
and that was another thing. I wanted to make sure that we had a table full of all kinds of information for community folks. Your administrator can fill you in on what the event was. Thank you very much for being such a great member of YSAP. You all have a good afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Wanda Ross.
So pull it down a little bit for you.
Oh, I'm good. You can hear me from back there. My name is Wanda Ross, and I may or may not have a case pending before you because I did submit a complaint, but I came to observe how the base, how the board operated. And what's your title?
I'm the administrator.
Okay. And you do all that work?
Yes.
You don't delegate that duty out? Oh, okay. All right. And basically, that's what I was here for, and I wanted to find out about who was the investigator and how do they go about their operation.
So currently we have hired 2 private investigators. As of, I think last month it was, we've hired 2 investigators that are outside firms.
Okay.
And other than that, it's just usually myself that goes out to investigate the cases.
Okay, you need an assistant? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
This is my first visit. Much like Wanda, I have a case before you, and it is soon, well, it just happened that it's a 1-year anniversary, and one comment I heard here was that there's an 18-month window for a police officer to be disciplined. So we're working in the 6 months between March the 5th and the end date. March the 5th of last year, I came home with groceries in my car, took them to my apartment, and a woman backed into my car. Police officer came out to investigate the accident. I wasn't there. I had sugar deprivation while I was waiting after I gathered all the information from the other party who was the damaging party. I got a license number. She would refuse to give me her insurance information. I gathered all that stuff, what I could, so I could report it to my insurance company. By the way, I've been with my insurance company, Allstate, for 29 years. So I left, parked my car, and went up to my apartment. And I was coming back downstairs, and after having put the groceries away, and the maintenance guy came and got me, and he said, a woman backed into your car. So I went down to investigate. Now, like I said, the case is before you. The long and the short of it here is it should have been a real easy case for a police officer to come out and write a report on. But he chose to lie. He chose to fabricate. He falsified my testimony. And what should have been a 1-page report on the accident turned out to be 4 pages, 2 pages devoted entirely to the woman who backed into me. She was the person who was at fault, and she backed up 35 feet to hit my car. Not just backed up like in a parking lot, she backed up 35 feet to hit my car. So I reported it to my insurance company, and that part of it's okay. But when I realized that I should get a copy of the report, the police report, I went down to records, got a copy of the police report, and in the police report I found out that the police officer lied. I lied about my testimony. He falsified my testimony in the information that I gave him. And I reported it to the Office of Professional Standards. Now, before I did that, I called his supervisor, we met, and he agreed to alter the police report. But when I went to pick up the police report, there wasn't anything altered. It was all the same information. So I was told that when I filled out a complaint and filed a complaint. So I was made to understand that you would be getting a copy of the police report, but I learned recently that that wasn't so. They never sent a copy over to you. And that was from April through October. They never sent a copy over to you. So I called Susan Boyle's office. She's my councilwoman, and she referred me to you. And so I reported to Miss Relaford, and we had a pleasant conversation. She was kind enough to come out to my home, and we discussed it. I have 34 pages of contemporaneous notes regarding my case. What I asked the police department, Sergeant Williams at the Office of Professional Standards, was to just correct the report. Take out the lies, take out the officer's testimony where he lied about what my testimony was, and to just put the report through. Well, they wouldn't do that. And so now I have a dilemma. What is the next step for a taxpayer? What is left for a person like me to do? Now, I know you know what the term stonewalling is, right? So I've been stonewalled by the Office of Professional Standards. When I reported this to Williams and Lieutenant Gates, they assured me, okay, it'll be taken care of. They assured me that you would get a copy. And you have a copy of my complaint. You have a copy of everything that I have provided to the police department. They sent over the day that Susan Boyle told me to get in touch with Miss Relaford. They faxed over 45 pages of information to you that concern my case. Now, it should have been a real easy, simple thing to do. The police officer works in the same building as the police chief. The police chief calls him up and says, listen, tell me about this. Let's get this worked out. Okay, go change the report. Everything would have been fine. But they refused to do that. And so my dilemma is I would like to find out what the protocol is for them to change a police report. I would like to find out from them what the protocol is for filing an addendum or an amendment.
Did you file a complaint with Ms. Relaford?
Yes, I did.
You went down to the office and filed a complaint?
Yes, she has my complaint.
Okay.
And
Well, we
so-
appreciate,
Your time is up.
Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you, sir. We will follow up on this. Ms. Relaford has your name and contact information, I assume?
Yes.
You know who he is?
I do.
Okay. So we'll follow up and get back to you. There are a variety of reasons why a report might not get to the board in a reasonable time, and we apologize for that. But we will follow up and get back to you on that, sir. Thank you.
I understand your dilemma in stonewalling the police department, the number of cases that you still have back on the police department, and I appreciate your position, you really do. It should have been a real easy thing for them to correct it. And
Got it.
I wouldn't be here now.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Reverend?
Oh, no, my insurance company, I've been with them 23 years.
Yeah, but I mean, did the ultimate resolution via the insurance company, was that affected in any way by what you're telling us here?
My premium went up. Now, when I say that, I'm 82 years old. When I turned last year, I was 81, and they said, oh, the premium went up because of your age. And I don't know whether to believe it or not because I don't have the contradict what they're telling me, so I have to take
Okay.
it at face value.
Okay, we'll be in touch. Thank you, sir. Reverend?
Good evening. My name is Eric York. I'm a pastor with the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance. And I just wanted to touch base, just gather information. In particular, we've been monitoring the transition, you know, with the change of police chief and the maintenance of community relations. I was listening to the report that you guys were making in community, and then the administrator's report, and a couple of things came to mind as far as questions. As far as the cases that you have pending from 2017, 2018, I know you have things that are still yet unresolved, but are there cases that have cleared? Because one of the things we try to do with the captive audience we have in our church and community is try to keep a positive hope and outreach on the things that are in place for them. We don't want to lose hope and say, well, gee, there is no hope because everything that's pending is still pending. There's no, you know, so maybe there is some clearance, I don't know. And then I also heard you say that one of your things you're looking into now is with the transition of the new chief, how some policies will be handled going forward. So my question then becomes, you know, in touch with the mayor's office, et cetera, how much rapport building or time have you guys spent? This is something that's very critical when it's put in place, supposed to be a viable outlet for citizens with regards to police concerns. Has the new chief had an opportunity to come down and spend some quality time listening to you guys and hearing how we want to put new things or improve on things or new things in place so this process remains viable and we can stay in support of it from a clergy perspective to say that if you have concerns, this entity that was created with the great people that are working on it, but they have an outlet or have an expectation that things are going to get worked out and resolved.
So to answer your first question, in 2018, we had 83 cases to be filed. So we have 48 outstanding. So just to give you some numbers in there. In 2017, we had 118 cases. And so we only have 25 outstanding, 25 to 21.
Cool.
So if you think about it in that sense, we have received information and we have processed.
That's a much better message.
Yeah.
That's a much better. Hey, great,
Yes.
great, thanks.
I just like to make sure that people know that when we get ready to review cases and you see that we're still reviewing 2017 cases
Right.
in 2019, we want you to understand why.
Sure.
And why we're still reviewing 2018 cases and still review and in 2019. So you're absolutely right, and thank you for pointing that out and asking that question. So we have had conversations with the police chief. I'm hopeful that him advising us that he's going to be more transparent is going to facilitate the process to move forward and in a faster manner than it has in the past. So with that being said, we've had, I think this is our third meeting that we've had with him. Some of it is him understanding the type of oversight we have. And the model that we have and why we have as much as we have. Instead of, there's several different models and it's explaining to him why we have what we have. So when I talk about the processes, I'm stating that I just informed him as to what we were doing, how that worked out for us or did not work out for us. So now, it's in your court to try to help us get better with regard to this so that then, we can finish 2017 and 2018 cases in 2019. So we're not still, going on because as of right now, we have 14 new cases in 2019. So if you think about it, we got 48 from 2018, 21, and then now we got 14.
New cases,
And it's going to keep coming.
Sure.
So we got to figure out how you're going to fix your backlog. And again, I can only give numbers on cases that I know about. I can't state how many that are going to be coming over to our office from the Office of Professional Standards that are not even accounted for
in the numbers.
In the numbers.
That's
So
if a citizen made a complaint only to them.
Sure.
And not to us, we might not know.
So I would say to you as a pastor and with your outreach to remind citizens to make sure that if they do file a complaint directly with the Office of Professional Standards that they contact our office and tell us.
Okay.
Because soon as you get an acknowledgement letter from them, you should be getting one from us. You should know that you should be receiving something from us, and if you don't, then that's a problem.
Okay.
And then we can become aware of the complaint a lot sooner rather than later. Because with the delay that occurs between our office and the Office of Professional Standards, most times when that delay occurs, I am now looking for this complainant because they think that the matter has been resolved, they think it's all over, and then here I am calling and they're like, well, I thought it was over. So we now need to make sure that the public is aware that you can go over to the Office of Professional Standards and file a complaint, but please let the CRB know that you filed one so we can follow up, because we only know what we know.
Sure.
So I would say if you can continue to encourage them to seek out the CRB and be their first choice of the place to file a complaint, so that we are aware firsthand. And it helps out in investigations to know sooner rather than later.
That's an important part that she just said, that last part. Encourage anybody who that has a complaint to file it directly with the review board.
Okay.
Okay, to go around the delay.
That's good to know. Thank you. Appreciate
I'd like to address another part of your question
Sure.
also about our relationship with the chief.
Yes.
And I want to say, as Renette said, she and I met with the chief once, and then we've had 2 meetings with a larger group, including the city lawyer, the deputy mayor, and a couple of common councilors. I'd like to say I'm optimistic, but I'm going to say I'm hopeful. I don't know that I'm optimistic yet. I'm hopeful that the chief is going to make the changes that need to be made in the department. We are very encouraged that the mayor's office reached out, did a national search at the request of citizens, that they had multiple forums where people came in and said what they wanted, and it was very clear the mayor's office listened, and they recruited somebody from outside, and as I said at the beginning, he's made a number of commitments to do some of the things that we feel he needs to do. He's also expressed publicly some severe doubts about the CRB process and said the CRB needs to be restructured. That's not his job. He doesn't have the right to do that at all. So we're concerned about some of what the chief is saying, but we're very hopeful about what he's doing. We want to, in terms of our following up, we're in a good faith effort to go to these meetings with City Hall, the council, and the chief, and say we want these things to happen. We're not going to call him back tomorrow and say how it's going, partly because we don't want him in a position where he's getting it from both sides. He's got a union and union leadership over there that sometimes make demands that I just don't understand. They want to get paid for wearing body cameras. That's crazy. He's dealing with people who might not be rational, and he has to deal with them, and he has to be their commanding officer.
Sure.
So we're certainly willing to give him some time and to understand that he's in a very difficult position, and we expect him to follow up on the commitments that he's made, and we'll do our best to work with him.
I'm sure it's an incredible position that any public servant is in, but you know, we have to have faith in the process that we have. One of the key things we have as pastors is, we're promoters of hope. And if our hope is in a process, we have to know that process is being effective. Now, I understand nothing works perfectly, but we certainly want as much insight as we can, and so we appreciate your efforts to try to make that work a little smoother. Thank you.
Thanks, and thank you for coming, Pastor. Any other public comments or questions? Thank you all for coming. I will now entertain a motion to go into private session, executive session, to talk over cases. Would someone make that motion, please?
I make it.
Going into
Go into
executive session because we will be disclosing names of officers.
Second.
We will return to public session when we're done. I expect you probably won't be here because we're going to open and then close the meeting at that point.
Do you have anything to say?
Well, I was just gonna ask.
Okay.
That's okay. Yeah, come on up. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Yes. Safe travels. Enjoy yourself.
It was nice meeting you all.
You too.
Bye now.
Brother, when is the next white set?
again.
I don't know if I can do it again.
So I can go by the calendar. They'll be at that building.
Well, she looks like